Okay,
Good.
perfect. Okay, so I mean, just to get started. So putting Admit Canada aside, what are major factors contributed to your acceptance at Stanford and Harvard?
Well, um, I think some important things is so sort of like Mario said in his introduction, what has led me to apply, like the things I've done in my career. I think an important thing that I like about how I did my professional experience is I never forgot about my personal life. So I love playing rugby. I was very loyal to that. I always had in mind and have in mind that I want to continue playing, and having that very clear goal. I think in some way, not with the sole goal of standing out because of that, but in some way strengthens your application. So I think that would be a thing. Playing rugby for Mexico's national team is very important. Another thing that may be important, you know as anyone, I'm not an expert in this, but I try to look back and think of what I said and what I've done through my application. And I think was co-founding two companies. I think that is also important. I don't think that the size of the companies was relevant. I think that actually, putting in your essay that you put in a lot of time to build these companies, what you did, how you did it, and in the interviews talking about your experience in them, your challenges in them, your joys and whatnot in them. I think that's also very important, and it gives a lot and it gives a clear view on your goals as a person. And also, I would say being true to myself along the way. I think everything I've done since I started working has been uh, has been in line with my objectives, which is, you know, building a company in the long term that has a sustainability goal. It can be sustainability in energy, it can be in product, it can be in water treatment, in any production process. So I think doing that and building your story in that way without even like I started working in investment banking, and I started looking at green loans because I was interested in them. And then when I joined McKinsey, I was also very clear that I wanted to do sustainability issues, sustainability related projects. So that sort of went that way. And then now when I looked at my secondment, I wanted to work in clean energy. So I was just loyal to myself in other process. And then when I looked back and I looked at my resume, it all made sense. And it made sense in a way that positioned me to tell every university, this is what I've done, this is what I'm planning to do, and this is my story. So I think that being true to myself was very important.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think that's very important. Some people seem to they approach these like extracurriculars from a completely different perspective, and they will just try to do things that they believe uh, that they are just going to add like bullets in a resume. They don't really believe or have a passion for that. In your particular case, Diego, I think that you are truly following your passion. So that's always has been the main goal, the main intent. And I think schools and people who read your applications, they can actually feel that all the way until the interview process. So I think that there is a lot of learning lessons from your particular approach to work and life.
Hmm. So when did you, yeah, sorry, you can jump
No,
in.
no, yeah, I was just gonna react on that. I think that was one of the most important things. I think I was
Mhm.
loyal to my interests along the way, and then I looked back and said, "Oh, this makes perfect sense." But it wasn't like I was building, this fake story or whatever, or made up story, or however you wanna call it synthetic story. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. So, when would you say your dream of going to these very elite MBA programs start?
So it actually started on the first year I started working. So sort of how my professional career went is I studied chemical engineering in UNAM. And then I did entrepreneurship while I was at university, and then 6 months after that. And when I started working and when I started investment banking in Mexico, I sort of realized, and looking at the people you work with, the people you admire, the things they know, how they structure their thinking, how they go about talking to other people, and seeing their resumes. Master degrees in investment banking were I'd say were not uncommon. So that's sort of the first thing that clicked into my mind. Like maybe this might make sense to me, but it wasn't all. Oh, I want to do this 100%. So that's the first time the seed per se got planted. And then as I looked at my career ahead, and I joined McKinsey, obviously. At McKinsey, a lot of people, I would say the vast majority have an MBA. Sort of they talk to you about the importance of that, what it gives you, the tools it gives you. And I just realized that it made sense for me. It made sense for me if I wanted to pursue a career as a consultant, because it strengthened my toolkit in many ways. It structured my thinking, it broadened my network. And if I wanted to venture into entrepreneurship, it also gave me a lot of tools, to give me a space where I can think, react, take classes, and live among people that have that same energy, that same impulse around entrepreneurship. It started up building, and then I decided, okay, I'm going to apply. And obviously when I decided to do that, I just decided I had to give 100%, and then it sort of went that way.
Mm-hmm. So, I wanted to talk about your essays. I mean, I read them, and they're very honest, and I mean also a bit risky, I guess you could say. So, what would you recommend to other prospective applicants with regard to like essay planning and writing?
Yeah. So I'd say, again, I know I might repeat this along the way, but this would probably be my greatest advice to anyone applying to the MBA is just be true to yourself. Like the moment you start thinking, what does someone else want me to say, or how they want me to think, I think you lose part of yourself there. So it actually, for my Stanford MBA, it took me a year to sit down and start typing the first words. So we know the prompt that is what matters most to you and why, and it wasn't an overnight thought that gave me that. So it was sort of thinking it, analyzing it, and then when I felt I was ready, I just sat down. And I would tell you, I wrote the first draft in about three hours, because for me it was very, very, very clear then. And I just sort of imagined as if I was telling someone else, anyone, mom, dad, whomever, what matters most to me. And I sort of forgot why I was writing this. And that gave me a clear base. I obviously worked a lot on that essay afterwards, but that was 80% of the essay, and then the other 20 was thinking it through again. Telling friends, hey, do you think this is me? What do you think about it? Do you think it reflects myself? And sort of that. And then for other essays, it was sort of because, well, for example, again, the Harvard essay is a very open essay, and one thing that I think talks a lot about me is rugby. I played rugby for most of my life. Rugby has been a very, very important thing. I've made a lot of friends through rugby. I've learned a lot through rugby. So I just wanted to tell that story, like, hey, this is my story in rugby. This is what I have learned, and this is how it has made me the person I am today. And I sort of forgot who I was reading it for. And then when and again, the first 80% of the essay I wrote in about 3 hours, because I knew what I wanted to write about. I was sure about that. Sometimes I think, I'm not sure because it's not my case, but people are too worried about, you know, what someone else is gonna think, and they think a lot through, like, should I write this? Shouldn't I? And that might make the essay writing process more difficult and longer.
Mm-hmm.
And going back to that, like being authentic in the process, one of the questions that I get a lot is that people ask me, what is that Stanford or Harvard or Stanford want to hear, and they are thinking in terms of what do I need to say in order to be to have a chance at that particular school. So the approach is completely wrong. And what I tell them is, you need to think about what is that you want to say. You need to think about your stories. Obviously, there is certain flavor in every school. They are not equal, but the message, the story needs to be authentic, and it needs to be something that you truly want to say. And if you look at the Stanford essay and the Harvard essay, they are very different. And also some people, in some cases, they try to approach these essays in the same way, and even in some cases they just recycle one into another, and that's not usually that could not be the best approach. And in your case, I think if we read those essays, they have a completely different feeling. Obviously, there is some sort of overlap. You talk about rugby in both essays, but the emphasis is completely different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just to react on that. I think, I think so for any university, I think there's sort of a I don't know whether to call it a profile or something else, but there's sort of an expectation of you know, the essay prompts tell you a lot about the universities, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to answer the prompt, and there are a lot of things you have done in your life that might answer the prompt in a better and different way. And if you sit down and you think to yourself, and this is what I would do is, I sat down, I read the prompt, I obviously knew the university, I knew what I wanted to talk about, and I just thought, this is the only university I'm applying to. This is the only MBA program I'm applying to, and I didn't repeat, you know, for any of the essays I did. I applied to 5 schools. I didn't use the different story in any of them, because in any of them, one story related to the other story, and it just sort of felt fake. So if I would say, if you don't have the time to write 5 essays, then maybe don't apply to 5 schools. Maybe apply to 4, and really sit down and think to yourself, I'm just applying to this school at the moment you're writing that essay, and what do I want to tell this school? Because and we saw it, Mario, in the survey you did. So normally applying to more than 5 schools is not ideal, and I would say that is one of the things, because obviously the GMAT, the CV might be the same, but writing the essay is a complicated thing, and you know, and you don't want to be writing 7 essays at the end of the day, or writing 2 essays and then just recycling them for 7 universities, which would not be good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. Usually between 3 and 5 schools, I think that's the best.
Mm-hmm.
More than 5, I think it's overkill. Less than 3, it might work for somebody, but you might be taking a risk, especially if you're applying to the M7s or to very competitive programs. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I guess just from your perspective, what are the differences between the two schools, Stanford and Harvard, and how did you choose one program over the other?
So thinking about this, I don't want to take the leap into thinking that I know the main differences between the two programs. Sort of how I thought about making the decision and how I made the decision was in the broadest and most clear things that people would think about. I think the two universities and a lot of universities have a very, very, very strong program that you can leverage in a lot of ways. And really, it's up to you whether you make your time there a success. So I took it one step back and I said, okay, so both programs give me the same things. And at the end of the day, when I interviewed alumni and when I talked to a lot of people, that's what they both said. You can't go wrong with the decision. So think about the more obvious things. And that is how I made the decision. You know, I didn't compare this class versus that class, this professor versus this professor, the entrepreneurship things they have here versus the entrepreneur, because at the end of the day, they both have very, very, very robust programs, great teachers, and the profiles they have and the students they have are very diverse, are very the cultures are very rich. So that for me was a given in both. And I just took a step back and said, okay, the first thing is where do I see myself? Like thinking about my story, what makes sense more for me? What makes more sense for me? So that was one question I said, and thinking about the sustainability path I wanted to pursue, you know, what made sense for me. For example, for me, Stanford was a good fit because they have the EIPER program, which is a double degree that you take in sustainability also. So again, for me, that made sense. And then also you have to think about the more obvious things, like the weather, the city. I know these things at first may seem like a no-brainer, but you don't want to be maybe you hate maybe you hate being cold, or maybe you hate, you know, being warm or whatever. And you don't want to, you know, your 2 years to be suffering in the snow if you don't like the snow, and you know, and you don't want to be suffering in the heat if you don't like heat. Like my dad, for example, he can't walk on the side of the sidewalk that has the sun. So you don't want to be miserable for 2 years, you know, making, like, not taking that into account. Another thing that I thought it was very important for me, again, and I want to say for me because this for every person it is different. I wanted to play rugby, so I thought, like, okay, the MBA program is a very, very important thing for me, but another very important thing for me, and I realized it, obviously, I've known it for a long time, but I realized it more in COVID because I couldn't do it, was playing rugby. I said, I am going to be very miserable if I don't have a place to play rugby at a good level rugby. So conversations with with students that went to both universities, I would ask them, like, hey, do you know someone that has played rugby there? Do you know how the rugby program is? And maybe for you, you have a strong interest in something else. So make sure because the MBA program is obviously key, and it's going to drive probably your decision. But there are also small things that you have to take into account in order for, you know, yourself to be fully happy when you're there. So that would be my advice.
Yeah, just thinking about yourself more than the program, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So this interview is probably going to reach a lot of young professionals who want to do what you're doing. So what would you recommend to those people?
So the first one is start early. You don't want to be on the last days making the last tweaks on your essay and, you know, working on that. For a couple of universities, I did that and I suffered a lot. and I wasn't even too close to the deadline, but I felt a lot of pressure. So that would be one thing, because then when you click the submit button, like every time I click the submit button for each of the 5 universities, I really thought like, okay, this is the best. Like this is me. This is the version of me I want to talk about. This is the best I could have done in everything, and I just felt peaceful when I clicked submit. So one thing you don't want to do is you have this time of your life where when you want to express yourself and then you just rush through all the process, and then when you click submit, you're like, I could have done better with one more week, and then sort of your whole maybe this is too dramatic, but your future changes a lot because you didn't have that extra week, so take that extra week, extra month, extra whatever now, and start early. Make sure you have all the things in place. Make sure you know the prompts. Like I said, I started with the Stanford prompt, which was one that I knew very early on in the Harvard prompt. I don't know, maybe 1 year and a half in advance. Also the MIT prompt, and the other universities I applied to 1 year in advance, and then I started thinking about that, and then I just wrote it. The other thing is, so don't think that you're gonna ace the GMAT on the first go. In my experience, I guess one thing I would say, and this is also what Mario talked about in one of the LinkedIn surveys, is maybe try to follow pacing yourself through an online tool. That worked for me, and I think that is very helpful. If it doesn't work for you, then at least in the proper time that it doesn't work, like it didn't work for you. So yeah, do that. And yeah, I guess my last advice. So the first one, do it in time. The second one, have a clear view of what you want to do and how you want to do it. And the third one, again, and I'm going to repeat it all the way, is be true to yourself. Now, while you're writing the essays, and if you are planning to do this in 3 years, don't make career decisions, starting a company decision, playing a sport decision, or whatever based on the MBA. It's not going to work, first of all, for your life, for you. And then second of all, if it doesn't work for the MBA, it's going to be just worse, because you weren't true to yourself for 3 or 4 years, and then you didn't even get where you wanted to be. No.
Yes, exactly. And Diego, just going back to the time question, and we get this question a lot. People will ask, how much time do I need to put together, let's say, 3 to 5 applications? What would you say to those?
Okay. So I think if you're applying to, okay, so I'm gonna talk about second round. If you're applying to first round, you should have already started.
Yeah,
and
that's
when
also
they're posting this video, but you're late.
Yeah, that's also a good question. So some people seem to believe that they have to apply in first round, and they rush, and then they just end up submitting like poorly written essays. When probably a best approach would have been to just wait and apply in second, and then you apply in second round.
Yeah.
So again, it's just talking about like how much time do we need to put together strong applications, and you also talk about the rounds.
Yeah. So just to say it, I'm not a guru in this, but I've talked to a lot of people. So if I had to tell you, like, if someone asks me, and anyone who asks me, like, in what round should I apply, I would say apply whenever you're ready, and then I would add a parenthesis that writes before third round.
Yeah.
So apply either first or second, but really try to avoid third. I have so a friend of mine is at Stanford. I'm running out of power. So a friend of mine is at Stanford. He got accepted in third round, actually. and he said he didn't like feel completely confident in second round. So you might have, you know, that sort of I don't know, opportunity to apply in third round and still be accepted. Obviously, a lot of people do that, but I would try to avoid that. Okay. In my experience and to the people that I've talked to, that is. And then in terms of when to start, so I applied in the second round to all of the universities I applied to. So to the 5 universities, and I started. The first essay I wrote was Stanford, and I started writing it in. So I wrote it in August. I don't know, in the middle of August. So I had that time frame. I was ready with my GMAT in the middle of November. So sort of how I played it is so I knew what essays I wanted to write. So I started with the essay, and it was sort of, it wasn't a decision for me. It was just one day I was inspired and I said, today's the day I'm writing the essay, and I sat down and I wrote the Stanford essay. So it wasn't sort of okay, first I'll write the essay, then I'll start. No, I was studying for the GMAT, and then at night I just said, okay, I'm ready. I'm writing the essay. So I wrote the essay. Like I said, like 80% of it, or the core of the Stanford essay. Same thing for the UCLA essay around September, and then for the Harvard essay around October, I think. Also the MIT essay and the LBS essay. So those were, well, the LBS essay I think was around November, and in between I was studying for the GMAT. The essay writing part was sort of an impulse of a day saying, and then I had my GMAT in the middle of November. So that's 1 month and a half before the deadlines. And with that month and a half before the deadlines, with my resume ready, with the core part of my essays ready, and my GMAT ready, I felt I was in good shape. And like I said, when I clicked the submit button in the first days of January, I think I did the best I could do. And yeah, so that's sort of how I would do it. If I had to give an advice, maybe start not in the middle of August, start earlier. Like there's nothing bad if you are in the middle of December and you're like, okay, I'm ready to go, and you have your December vacations ready. I didn't. I had to work, in the last days of December. So yeah, maybe start even earlier than I did.
Okay, perfect. So let's go on to like what you're doing now. Can you tell us a bit about the life of a McKinsey consultant and how this has helped you professionally and personally?
Yeah. So I always there's a friend of mine who's now in Kellogg. He received an offer from McKinsey, and I didn't realize like how happy I was with the firm until I started talking to him about it. For me, it was a great experience, and I think that if in any job, if it's not a great experience for you, then I would say think it through, before you continue on that and on that path, as a general advice to anybody saying this. But for me, it was a great experience. I had the opportunity. So first of all, it gave me a lot of structure. So on my thinking. And I realized that with this structure, I could think through problems better. Now, as Mario was saying, I'm doing a secondment in clean energy here in Madrid, and the way I structure problems I've seen helps a lot of people, work through different ideas. How I focus on the important things, and then on what will make you the 80% of your answer, and then just set aside the rest, and then just add them that those little parts as they make sense, because then you lose a lot of time with little stuff and then you don't get the main picture. So I would say that's one thing, structure. The second thing I think is very important is the hypothesis driven approach. So when you enter a problem, you have to put your logic, your experience, and whatever you've researched on the first days, weeks, or whatnot, depending on the size of the problem, and make a hypothesis. So this is to say what I think. This is what I think the market size is. This is what I imagine the solution to the problem is. And you start with a hypothesis, and as you work through, you have something to look at and either add on or refute. So no, at the end of the day, it's not what I thought, but at least it gives you a path, to follow, because sometimes I don't know if that's a Canadian or American expression, but in Mexico we say we're like a chicken with a head, like running, like running everywhere and trying to solve everything and looking at everything. No, so just pick a path and go for it, even if you're like building on a problem. So structure it and go for it. And the third one I'd say would be communication skills. McKinsey gives you a lot of exposure since very early on to C-level executives, to managerial executives, to a lot of people. It also, for me in Mexico, it gave me a lot of exposure to speaking in English, to working in English, writing in English, whatever. And I think those communication skills are very important as you go on. You have to understand that when you talk to people that have 5 minutes, you want to start by the most important thing, and you want to be very clear of what you want to say and what the other person wants to know about. So if you're working in a sales project, you don't go to the CEO and start thinking about all the efforts you're doing in the sales team to make it happen. No, if the CEO has 5 times with you, he'll want to know if you have made the target or not, and if you want to tell him why you haven't. So you have to be very clear, like, we didn't make the target because of this and that, and I want your input on this, and don't start talking about process. I think that helped me a lot. So that would be the 3 things: structure, hypothesis driven approach, and communication skills.
Great. Okay. So you mentioned that rugby's a big part of your life. So how did you leverage this for your MBA applications?
Yeah. So I just wanted to add on the last thing. It also gave me a lot of community, and that is also I like something I appreciate a lot, and I look for in the places I work in the subsequent years. There's a big community, and I have a lot of friends there. So rugby, like how do I leverage it in my applications? I guess sort of in depending on the prompt, I'd say I leveraged it more in some applications than in others. Actually, for example, in the UCLA prompt, I don't think I talked about it, and through the process, I don't think it was a main focus of mine. And for example, in the HBS essay, it was what the essay was about. And then in Stanford has these additional questions where they give you the opportunity to talk about different parts of your life. And although the first essay I talked about rugby, but it wasn't at all the most important thing about it, or even it was just like a line or two. I had an opportunity in the other parts of the application to talk about rugby and my experience in there. So I'd say if you have a strength there, just try to leverage it where it makes sense. For me, in LBS, it was also a very important part of my essay. And sort of, I also co-founded a company where we help artisans in Mexico, indigenous artisans in Mexico, sell their stuff through the web. So that was also one thing that I wanted to talk about. And I sort of was very clear on what I did, how I did it, and the impact it had in the places it made sense. Yeah, so I don't know if this is too generic, but I guess whenever I felt that the prompt gave me the opportunity to leverage either rugby or co-founding a company, or working at McKinsey, or working in clean energy, an important part. I just went with my gut feeling and said, okay, this is what I want to talk about, and leveraged it.
Yeah.
And I have your Harvard essay here, and in that essay you leverage rugby very well from my perspective, and I want to read a short line that I still believe that is probably one of the most impactful lines that I have ever read in an essay, and I like it a lot. So it says, basically says, through rugby, I learned that leadership is many times not soft, but encountered by the way you approach life. So I think that's a very powerful line, and I think it tells a lot about you and the role that rugby play in your life.
Yeah, definitely. So one of the things and even now, as I have my acceptance in different universities, I think people look up to a lot is the ability of anyone to I don't know the word is to fight for what they believe, or to work in what they believe in. And then I think that creates a sort of an admiration. It does on my side when I see someone that has a lot of passion to do something. In a sense, it creates a sense of admiration, like, hey, this girl, this guy, this person, this whomever, is really, really dedicated to their craft, and and that if you are working with that person, in the short or medium term or long term, you are drawn to that passion for their craft, to that ambition, to that way of working, to that philosophy, and inherently makes them a leader between people. So, and that is I think what I wanted to say on that, in that line, is that if you're passionate, if you're true to your craft, if you're good at what you do, and if obviously you're good to people around you, you don't have to seek leadership. Like, it will just be a consequence. Like, leadership is not something that you have to have in order to do something. In my experience, again, leadership is something that when you try to do something, and you are good at it, and you help people around that time, it just sort of is a consequence of your work.
Okay, so post MBA, what are your aspirations for after, and what changes do you kind of want to drive in your community and in the world?
Okay, so post MBA. So one thing I have absolutely clear is I want to dedicate my life to sustainability issues. Again, whether it is sustainability around clean energy, the products we consume, how we treat our water, how we treat our waste, land. So the soul word gives me a lot of passion, and it is a challenge I wanna take on. So that would be the pillar, and then above that pillar, I would say there are two things that are important for me. So one is, so talking about this community, the things I've learned at McKinsey is the opportunity I would have going back to McKinsey and building on that pillar, and building a very, very strong community network and way of working with different clients at McKinsey to achieve that sustainability and really drive that sustainability with big enterprises, having a lot of impact on that. I truly think that you can venture into entrepreneurship, either building a startup, which is the other opportunity I'm thinking about, or being an entrepreneur in your work. If you feel it gives you the tools and the space and the community and the leader and you have the leaders that you want to do it with. And McKinsey for me is a great place to do that. Like I said, I was very, very happy working there. I'm now here in clean energy, and so after the MBA, it would make a lot of sense for me to build on that platform of McKinsey sustainability, or start a sustainability startup. Whether I wanna take the absolute decision now on where I wanna be in 2 years, I don't wanna do it. So I'm still figuring out, and I know I'll still figure it out through the next 2 years. But what I have very, very clear is, so I have these two options. I'm gonna work to make these two options available, and if they are available, I'll see in a year and a half what makes more sense to me. I don't know if in the next year I will have a great opportunity to start a startup because there has been a problem in Latin America that no one has solved, and I really feel this drive to make the startup. Or McKinsey is working a lot in sustainability now, and it might make more sense to me to go and try to lead projects there and take them to the next level. And yeah, so those are my two options. And, yeah.
Okay, and then kind of just like the last question on my end. So again, putting admit candidate aside, generally speaking, what kind of value do you think a consultant brings to the table in the application process?
Yeah, so first of all, before talking about consultants, I think you can do the application process by yourself. And I'm thinking about friends and family. Don't go like, I did it. Then, okay. So you can, obviously you can, and you might succeed. And I know there are hundreds, thousands of people that have done it, without talking to a single person, any single minute, and they've done it. So I wouldn't say that something is impossible because I didn't, I don't know about it. But I would say try to bring people in, very, very close friends, siblings, people you trust, parents, close family, and ask them to read your essays. Like, is this me? Do you think this is a story that resembles me? Do you see myself in the story I'm writing? When I was writing the HBS essay, I actually had a friend over here that he was visiting Madrid, and he was watching TV, and every time I ended a paragraph, I would go to him and I would share the screen, and we would talk about the paragraph, and he would say yeah that resounds. So bring people in. So that would be the first thing. And then second thing, and specifically about consultants, for me, it was very important to have an institution, a person, because for me, that knows the process, that gives you that ability to, in my case, again, I talked to Mario, I talked to him about who I was, what I wanted to do, how I thought about the MBA program, and really, it helped for me having that someone outside that said, hey, remember you said this, how, do you really want to talk about it? Yes, no, it is always good to have a little bit of challenge on what you do, in anything you do, and having challenge, like being challenged in a healthy way, per se, is good for your application, because you think things through, and then you go, okay, no, maybe this makes more sense. At the end of the day, you are the one who holds the pen, and you are the one making the decisions, and you are the one that has to be responsible for those decisions, because again, when you click submit, you have to be comfortable with it. So I would say you have to be the driver, but the passengers in the car are also very important. And having someone by your side that knows the way, that can help you through the way and can guide you, I think for me it had a lot it was very important. It was so yeah, that's how I would end. And I wouldn't say, I just want to be very clear, I wouldn't say that my way is the best way and is the way to do it. I just, in my experience, it was what worked for me.
Yeah, there are obviously different points of view, different approaches. Even when I talk to people, what I will say, this is just my point of view. I don't want to force my opinion on anybody. And as you just said, as an applicant, because I was an applicant myself at some point, you need to feel that you own the application. You have to make it yours. You have to tell your stories, your way, and I think that there is value on bringing people in your car, as you are saying, like friends, co-workers. Not everybody needs a consultant. I think some people do. Some people really don't need that person. But it's a personal decision, and it's different in every case, different for every person. You need to reflect on your strengths, your weaknesses, and you need to make a decision on who do you need to bring in order to be successful in your application process.
Yeah, definitely. And again, this is what worked for me, and having friends, look at my essays, it also works. I think having different eyes in a process that is very important to you, in my opinion, is very important. And a consultant in this matter knows the way, and then can help you in different parts of the process to be confident. I think that also was very important for me. Like I knew what I want to talk to about, but it also gave me that level of confidence of saying, okay, someone that has seen a lot of applications and a lot of essays read my essay, so it's and it makes sense. So it's sort of also like that, in my experience. Maybe you're writing your essay and you don't care about what your cousin thinks, or what the consultant thinks, or what anyone thinks. So that is very valid too. I wouldn't say any way is the correct way, but sort of, for me, I was very vulnerable in my essays. I was absolutely truthful in what I wanted to share. Like Cameron said, I took a risk, and I just wanted to know if that risk made sense or not. Maybe if someone told me, hey, this risk doesn't make sense, I would have done it anyway. Maybe, but at least I knew what I was getting into. No,
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I remember when after the HBS interview, you told me that because you have to write this post-interview reflection essay. So I remember that you told me, you know what, Mario, I'm gonna tell like whatever I truly want to say, and if they don't really like the approach or my take, that's fine. But you truly wanted to say something that you had to say, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, because in the post interview reflection, I remember when I talked to people that went to HBS, they told me that so they sort of talked more about a subject, or went back on a subject and said, hey, this is not what I meant. What I meant was that, and whatever. And for me, as I finished the interview, I felt good. I felt confident. I absolutely loved the interview. So that's what I wanted to say when I started writing. Like, hey, when you asked me this, I actually thought it through, and I wanted to add this. It didn't feel, authentic for me. So my essay was sort of like, thank you very much. This has been a great process, and obviously some other stuff that I wanted to talk about, but I didn't take the way of, you know, going to a lot of parts of my interview, and I just wrote like what I wanted to say. Actually, that one, when I clicked submit, I thought for a day I was too like, maybe that was too risky. But again, that's what I wanted to say. That's what I wanted to talk about. And in that certain part, I don't think that anybody like read it. Like that certain part was me writing this and send, and I was very, very happy sending that. And I think sometimes you just feel you have to do that.
Yeah, I believe that was so when you're like shooting for the stars, I think you need to be risky if you want to be, if you want to take the traditional path, if you want to say like whatever people usually say, if you try to follow the recipe or the formula, you're gonna fail. I really love your approach of being authentic, being true to yourself, and I'm really glad that it worked out for you.
No, yeah. Thank you very. I'm very glad. I'm very glad. So I want to thank you to Mario and the team. Like this has been very exciting. This has also been exhausting at times. So the process the process is long and it's tedious, and but it's also very, very well. In my case, it was very rewarding. I think it is something that you have to do it in advance in order for you to show your best self, because that's what you want to do. Everyone, you're competing about the best self of a lot of people, and you have to have that in mind. Maybe and for me, I put myself there, and I gave 100%. If you, maybe if I would have given 1% less, it wouldn't have worked. So and I couldn't have been able to, you know, think and, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that, and I think that was important. So yeah, thank you a lot,
Thank you.
Lucas, and there are some exciting things to come in September when I'm in
Yes.
California.
Yes,
I hope
thank you.
with a more controlled, obviously, pandemic situation, I will
Yes.
be ready to go into campus and stuff like that.
Yes, I think that things are going to improve, and Diego, we just want to say thank you for your time. We know that you are very busy, and we wish you the best in this new chapter of your life. And this is not a goodbye. We will follow your career closely, and we will remain in touch. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you very
Yeah, no,
much.
thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Diego.